Hi, my name is Noel Davis with World Composting, and today we're going to take a look at our urban worm bag with the African Nightcrawlers in it. Now, it has been multiple months since we've last checked in on this system. I haven't been doing as many videos. I'm still trying to get back into it, but it's just been really hard lately with everything else going on in my life. Good things, but just a lot of stuff going on. So with that, I'm going to do an update on this system and how it's doing as we get into, as you can see here, I've got my long clothes on. We're starting to drop in temperature, and these African Nightcrawlers just don't do as well when it gets cold out. Now, we're not really into the 20-degree weather here yet as far as Fahrenheit, but it's something where it's pretty cold here, and it's starting to drop, and with that, my basement's going to drop in temperature with that. So I really want to start adding more food to this worm bin, start really trying to heat it up, trying to get this going so these worms can sort of take off and we can kind of have that heat generation from hot composting that goes on to keep these worms really functioning and high efficiency during the winter months here. So with that, I have a whole bunch of food to add. We've got cardboard to add. I'm going to add some of my charcoal, right? My homemade charcoal, I should say. That's it's more just pure carbon. It's moist. It's been kind of ground up a little bit, and we're going to add that, and that's going to hopefully turn into biochar in this system. It's not biochar yet, and that's because I haven't added anything to inoculate it. You know, charcoal by itself is not biochar, and I could link that video down below, hopefully. But it's not biochar by itself until you inoculate it with something. So I made the charcoal, but I've never added anything to it to get it to that next level. This system is going to do that for me. So with that, let's take a look and see how the worms are doing, how the system is doing. It's probably very dry in there. Hopefully the worms are still doing well, because as I said, it's been multiple months since I've checked on it. But we're going to add a whole bunch of water. We're going to add watermelon as a food. We're going to add paper that's already pre-soaked, and hopefully that's going to help this system sort of re-inoculate and get itself back up and running again. I'm going to try to do more videos. I'm going to try to get better about this, but still, life is more important than these videos for me at this time. So with that, let's go take a look at the system and see how it's doing. All right, here's the system, and let me move this light a little bit. Here's the system here, and with that, I want to say it looks like it's been about 3 months or 3+ months since I last checked on this. It just shows how much I've been falling behind on this as other things have taken over. So this is going to be very dry, as you can see here from this lid is very dry. But let's go ahead and dig in here and find out. My gloves, by the way, they are wet. I was just grinding up some of the, moistening up some of the biochar, as you can see on my hand here. I can't see the screen on my camera. There we go. It's a little better. So I got some biochar on there. Let's just go ahead and dig in. You can see this is very, very dry. We got a whole bunch of little millipedes on here. So they're also pretty dry here. Well, let's see if we can find any worms in here that are still alive. With this type of dryness, I don't know. We might not have any in here. I'm going to be honest with you. I might have lost them all. I'm hoping that's not the case. I am ready to add stuff to the system, but I didn't realize it had been that long. It looks like I did updates on my other systems a little bit more frequently than I was hitting up this one. So, but with that, there is something else we can do to re-inoculate the system with worms if we need to. Let's just see here, though. Let's dig down a little bit and see if we can find any in here. I have to say, the material does feel really nice. This almost feels like it's ready to be used outside of my yard. Not seeing any worms, though, yet, which is a worrisome sign. This might be a dead system now. Alright, we're getting down here. You can see the material is really well worked through. I mean, just look at every single handful. It just flakes apart in my hand. This is exactly what you're looking for with this type of stuff. I mean, it's really, really nice material. But unfortunately right now, no worms, which is the bigger issue. So let's just go all the way down here into the center, see if there's anything in here. It looks like that's a millipede. Usually I've usually been able to find like 1 or 2 worms in these systems when this happens, at least. But oh, hold on. It's also a millipede. I thought that was a worm right there, but that's a millipede. So this might be a dead system as far as worms, unfortunately. I'm having trouble here. It's just, all right, that's the bottom of the system right there. And I'm not seeing any worms. I'm just seeing the millipedes. So it looks like this, however long I let the system sit, was just too long for these worms. And they have died out in this system. But as you can see, there's no worms in the system either. There's no bodies or anything like that. That's pretty normal. It's not like you find a whole bunch of dead worms in your systems normally. So we're going to go ahead and shovel this back into the center, and we're going to go ahead and do something here to get this system back and going. So actually, hold on. Before we do that, I'm just going to dig at the sides here just a little bit, just to double check here that this is true. Unfortunately, this is one of the few African Nightcrawler systems that I have. So after this, I'm only down to one other one, but we're going to re-inoculate it with African Nightcrawlers again. So there we go. We've hit the limit of what you can do with these systems with no maintenance. Now, I have to say, though, the material in here, this does look great. I mean, this really could just go right in my yard right now. If I sorted this out or just emptied this out right now, it would be great material, except for the cardboard that was on top. I mean, it's just all broken down beautifully. And this would be great in any place you'd want to put this. Garden, your yard. I mean, you can see it just crumbles apart in your hands. So, all right. So what are we going to do? We're going to wake the system back up by adding some fresh genetic material to it from another African Nightcrawler bin. I'm going to go ahead and stack up the sides a little bit here. But before we do that, what I am going to do is I'm going to add some of the other stuff in here first. So, because I really want to get this going, I don't want to just have a dead system here that is where I add a whole bunch of stuff and there's nothing else in here for them to eat and consume. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to actually add, I'm going to switch this up a little bit. I'm going to add, this is a paper bedding for like hamsters and rabbits and stuff and guinea pigs. And our hamster died a while ago. I've had this sitting in the basement. I've really been meaning to use it, so we're going to go ahead and add that first. And the reason being is that first off, it's dry, but I can get this wet, and this is going to be a good way to hold some moisture in here because it holds a good amount of moisture. There we go. We're going to add the rest of that, and I'm going to use my sprayer here. Oops. I'm just going to spray and moist all this stuff down. And we're going to kind of mix this up into here so that we get a nice mixture of stuff, paper, get that nice organic material in there. Hopefully all the organics are still alive. It's just the worms, hopefully, that didn't make it. I'm going to get this all nice and moist. I need to turn up the pressure a little bit on this. It looks like it's a little low maybe for the pump here, but just want to get everything nice and moist. We really want to make sure this is moist, that way the worms can do well in here once we add them. So again, I'm going to mix this up a little bit. And the reason why I'm using a sprayer is it gives it a chance to kind of soak in a little bit. I have used just dumping water on top, and I found that sometimes it'll just run right out through the bottom. It doesn't get a chance to really soak in. So there we go. That's a good amount of moisture in here. All right. I'm going to put that off to the side. Turn off the sprayer. All right. Now, the next thing I'm going to add is, I mentioned this before, but I have some biochar here, and this has been soaking for a little bit. It's been crushed up quite a bit, but I haven't been able to crush it up fully. I really need to have some sort of system to crush it up. Some of these bigger chunks are just a little harder to crush up. I'll have to use something a little bit more firm next time. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to just spread this out over this system, and we're going to mix this in as well. Actually, I'm going to put a little bit of water in here so I can rinse this out a little bit. So there we go, just a little bit more water, just to make sure we get all that stuff out of there. So there we go, we've got a good base of stuff here that's nice and moist. Should be helpful for any worms that we put in here. We're going to mix in the side stuff a little bit here, just to kind of make sure it's all nice and good. There we go. So this is a great base to start adding worms to. There should be a lot of material in here because of all the stuff that we added. There's the carbon, which will hopefully have those nanopores for that biochar will have once it's really get the nutrients from there. And then we also have the fresh paper for them to eat. Now, let's go get the worms. I'm going to bring a bin out here. All right, this is a bin I have been maintaining. I have not been doing videos, but this is an African Nightcrawler bin. So I'm just going to go ahead and open this up. Ooh. hopefully this is okay. We'll see here. It's very, very moist. I didn't realize how much water was in here. I just added a lot of other food. But we're going to go ahead and add in a couple of slops of this in here. And there's actually a lot of worms in here. And the reason why it's so moist is because of the fact that I added a lot of watermelon to this recently to try to moisten it up. Let me just show you here what type of worms we're dealing with. These are these African Nightcrawlers. Because of all the moisture, look at these worms. Look how big they are. They look great. And they're ready. And this is also going to get some of the material out of this bin. I didn't realize how moist it was. It needs to have, I need to get some more paper in here. But this is perfect because I'm going to empty this out a little bit and get this system going. This is going to be good to inoculate this with. All right, with that, I'm going to go ahead and close this bin back up. Well, I might want to leave the lid off, let it dry out a little bit. I didn't realize how much moisture was in there. But there we go. We've got some, essentially what looks like slop, but that's got a lot of African Nightcrawlers in it that are probably pretty hungry. And from there, they can go ahead and eat. Well, I'm going to put this down on the ground over here. As you can see, that's pretty caked up there, that material. So we're going to just kind of move this around a little bit, spread it around. Should we mix this in here? This is a good material to mix it with. It's going to kind of loosen everything up. It's going to start soaking into stuff. But as you can see here, as I showed before, these worms are massive worms. And once they get moving, they can get churned through stuff and repopulate very, very quickly. So, all right, with that, now we put those in. They're probably quite in shock right now. But got to keep moving here. We got to get everything else in. So with that, I'm going to just spray off my gloves again here because they're quite messy before we add anything else. And as you can see here, we got a lot of stuff to add. Still, we haven't really added a whole lot. We haven't added any food or anything like that, really. And they're going to need it. And then the next part is really going to be hoping that this stuff heats up. So there we go. As you can see, the water is sort of stopping on top a little bit more. This is a more waterlogged, the material that we just added. So what I'm going to do now, though, is I'm going to switch things up just a little bit. And that is, we're going to add food, but I'm going to put a barrier here. And that is because the food is frozen. And I want to give it a chance to kind of thaw out a little bit. So this is just part of a pizza box. I cut it in half, and that way I could have it sort of overlap. And then that, because they don't quite fit in here perfectly. And now we're going to put our watermelon that we have on top of there, because it is frozen. As you know, I freeze all my food typically. Just try to get some of the water off my glove. So I'm just going to bang this here on the side. Loosens everything up. We got a massive thing of watermelon here. Look at that. And from there, I'm going to keep everything sort of on top of here. Because this is going to be, this is very high moisture content. It's going to thaw out. It's going to run a ton of moisture into the system, which is fine since the system is quite dry, even though we just added a lot of moisture. And with that, we also want to add, and right now I'm going to put my mask on, because it's time to add some crushed crab and eggshell. And this is something I have not added to the system in a while. It does tend to keep things a little bit more, well, it's a grit, first of all, for the worms. Actually, I'm going to just take the top off. We need a lot more than that. But it does add a lot of texture, I feel, also to this type of stuff. So we're going to add quite a bit in here. But again, I'm wearing a mask on while I do this. I really should be having goggles on too, so I don't get it in my eyes. But typically after this, I have not had any issues with that, thankfully. So there we go. That is on there. And that's going to, this is going to thaw. It's going to really stick on here. Ooh, wow, there's a spider over here. It's really going to stick to all this. But that's the first part of this. And now we get to the next part. And that is adding our paper. So you just always should cover your food, because otherwise the worms aren't going to come up and eat it. So I'm going to add some paper in here, if I can get it out of the system. I had this pre-soaking, so it's some of it's damp, some of it's a little dry. We're going to add a lot of paper to the system. And this is a lot of food for the amount of worms that are in here now, but that's okay. We're going to try to check on this a little bit more frequently. But also watermelon is a very water-logged food. So it's not quite as much food as it is water that we're adding to the system right now. All right, I'm going to add that back in. And I think I might actually bring over my cardboard and just add a little bit more cardboard to the system. It's not a bad thing to have a lot of cardboard in these systems. The worms do like cardboard. And I have all my cardboard in a big bag off to the side here. So I just got to throw some in. This is dry cardboard, but I just want to kind of cover up all these gaps on the side. Just like that. Hopefully you can see that. Just kind of cover some of these gaps that are showing here. All right, I think that's good. All right, and with that, because we just put in a whole bunch of dry cardboard, I'm just going to kind of spray it down just a little bit, just to moisten the top up. Make sure there's water on everything. Everything gets a little wet. There we go. And then one last thing here. I'm just going to add one more piece of cardboard over the top here. Again, this is just a pizza box. This is going to reflect some of that moisture back down in instead of having it go that extra couple inches to the top of the system. Let me just make sure I get all the cardboard off my gloves. And that's it for this system. That's our update. Unfortunately, I lost all the worms in here, but that can happen if you're not really checking in on things. And it lets you know about how long you can go before you're going to lose all your worms in your system if you are not diligent about it. Now, with that, I know some people might be upset that I lost those worms, but in the end, these new worms hopefully will repopulate the system. I'm trying to get better at checking it more frequently. If not, if this happens again, I'll probably just shut down this bin altogether, because these are harder for me to keep alive, these African Nightcrawlers. The European and the red wigglers are a lot easier than these, and these I've had a lot of issues with where they've almost disappeared and then come back and then almost disappeared and then come back. So I just have a lot more issues with these worms in general. If you live in a hotter climate, these might be better for you, but in my climate where it can range quite a bit in temperature, my basement's on the cooler side, I've definitely found them to be more of an issue. So with that, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope it was a learning experience for you as far as timing and everything on these worm bins. And if you have any questions, please leave them down below.